This is just a quick tutorial where I'm going to show you how to make not just the string of hearts, but how to make your own heart pattern as well. Hearts can be notoriously difficult to draw, particularly trying to get them symmetrical. So I'll show you how to do that, and then you can adapt the pattern to make these in any size that you like. But I just think this is such a pretty little decoration for your home. You could fill it full of something that smells beautiful, like rose oil or lavender or potpourri. And of course you can decorate these however you like. I've kept these quite simple with just a little bit of lace and the bows, but you can really go to town with lots of embellishments, maybe little beads or gems or sequins or whatever you like. So a very simple project for you. Let's get on with making it. Now the first thing that we need to do is to design the heart templates. So the easiest way to draw a heart of any shape or size is like this. So take a piece of paper and fold it in half. And then you will need a circular template. Mine is a ribbon reel and it just happens to be 3.5 inches across, which is a perfect size for what I'm making. But if you want to make larger, use a larger circle. Overlap this slightly over the fold of the paper, and then you're going to draw around the edge of the circle, like so. Then we'll take a line from the side down. Now the length on this line depends on the shape of the heart that you want. So if I just open this up, you can kind of see the shape that I've got. If you wanted that heart to be a little bit fatter, then you make the line shorter here. So then you're going to have quite a fat heart. If you wanted to make one of those Scandinavian style of hearts with a very long point, then draw your line straight down to the bottom. And if I cover those up, you'll see that makes a long pointy heart. But we're going to go for the shorter option. So next you'll need to fold this back in half again. Take a pair of scissors and cut out the shape. And then when you open it up, you've got your perfect shaped heart. Now we need 3 hearts of 3 different sizes, but I want the shape of the heart to be the same. So we'll take another piece of paper and make a fold, and then we'll draw around this heart shape. So that's the same size, but this time when we cut, we're going to cut about 1/2 inch inside the line. You can draw this if you wish, but it's quite easy to do by eye. And then you will end up with the same shape of heart, but like slightly smaller. And then do the same again for the 3rd heart, but this time draw around the heart you've just made and you make the smaller size again. So then you're going to end up with your 3 perfect templates. Now the front of your hearts, you're going to draw around the outside of your heart shape, or you can use it just as you would do with the pattern and pin that to your fabric and just cut out the shape. And this is just for the front of the heart, so you'll need 1 piece of each heart of this shape. And again, if you wanted to make these bigger, then you could do. You could use this same technique of making a heart template for making a cushion, so you could make really big ones. It's just such an easy way to create a shape that you might find quite difficult. Or of course you can download templates off the internet, but it's so much more satisfying to make your own, isn't it? There we go. So we'll need a large, a medium and a smaller size. But for the back of your heart, I'm just going to trim that, it was a bit wobbly. That's a little bit different. Before you cut out the shape, you're going to sew 2 pieces of fabric together and press the seam allowance open. And then your pattern goes straight across the seam allowance. And the reason that I've done it this way is because when we sew the 2 sides of the heart together, you'll need to turn it the right side out, and then you'll need to stuff it, and then you'll need to sew the gap back up again. And the normal place to do that is on a straight piece of, if it's you know, a plique or something like that. But with a heart shape, it's very difficult to hand sew perfectly, so you can't really tell where the stitching is. You always get a little bit of a wobble on the seam line, and it can spoil the shape of your heart. So by doing it this way, you have a perfect seam at the back of the heart. So I'll unpick a hole in that later on, and then that makes it easier to sew back up. And if your stitching isn't perfect, it's on the back of the heart, so it's not quite as important. There we go. So front and back. So now I'm just going to put a little bit of ribbon onto the front. You can decorate this in any way that you like. So you could add lots of lace, you could use embroidery stitches, you could put, I don't know, rosettes and bows, and just make sure that nothing's going to get in the way of your seam allowance. So if you're going to put embellishments on at this stage, keep them in the centre. So I'm just going to put one strip of ribbon across here diagonally. I'm going to keep that in place with a little bit of spray adhesive. You don't need to do this, but if you do have some to hand, it makes the ribbon sit so much nicer and flatter as you're sewing. Then I'm going to take a little piece of lace, because I think the lace, particularly in this colour, it's kind of a creamy colour, gives it a vintage look, which suits this kind of thing, doesn't it? There we go. You can hear Bobbin's ears waggling. She's suddenly become very interested in what I'm doing. Okay, so that's going across there. And then I'm just going to sew across the lace. I'm not going to sew across the edge of the ribbon, because sewing across the lace is going to trap the ribbon underneath. But you'll see the stitches on the ribbon if I do that. And they kind of blend in on the lace so they don't stand out so much. And then back down the other side. So again, this is keeping it quite simple. You could cover the whole of the area with ribbon and lace if you wanted to. But I think that's nice and simple. So the next thing we need to do is to sew the two pieces together. So place them right sides together. You could pop a pin in there if you wanted to. But let's do that. Only needs one in the centre to hold them together. And then I'm going to sew all around the outside of the heart. Now I'm using quite a small stitch, a short stitch, because anything like this that's going to be stuffed will put a strain on the seam. So a smaller length of stitch is going to make it a stronger length of stitch. So quite close to the edge. So I'm using only about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance here. Take it easy as you go around the curves, because we want a nice smooth curve, so just ease that curve around evenly. A little tip for you as well, when you're doing something like this, when you come down to the point of the heart, stop one stitch before the seam, and then sew a couple of stitches straight across, and then go back around again. And you'll find that if you sew straight across that V shape, your point will be a lot pointier when you turn it the right side out. I don't know how it works, but it just does. So down into the point here, stop with the needle down, and back to where we started. There we are, so the pin can come out, and I'll trim off the edges of the ribbon. I'm going to snip off the point of the heart, but careful not to cut through the stitches. And then I'm going to take some pinking shears and just trim into the curved seam. And this again will help the seam to sit flatter. So just around the curve, but you don't need to do that all the way around. And then one final little snip is going to be into this V shape here. So again, close to the stitches, but not through them. Now then, you'll take your quick unpick and we're going to undo a few stitches in the centre of the back. There may be a conversation going on here in a second because the cat's just walked in too. She gets a bit jealous. So we're going to take your quick unpick and just undo a few stitches down here, and that's going to enable us to turn this the right side out. Don't unpick the stitches too far to the ends because you'll find it quite difficult to stuff it. Oi, okay, all right. You can sort them out then. What is it? Oi. Bobbin, bobbin, bobbin. Well, come and say hello then if you're here. Come on. Come on. Come on then, what you got? You've been in the bin, haven't you? You can't have that. No, you can't have that. Go on then. Go and do doggy things. So we're going to unpick a few stitches. We're going to unpick a few stitches. We're going to... We're going to stop for a minute and play with the dog and come back to you in 5 minutes. We're going to unpick some of the stitches from down the seam here. So just carefully prise the two seams apart and make a little incision. There we go. And just pull the stitches apart a little while. That'll do. Then we'll turn this the right side out. So just push out the curved bits and then into the point. If you have something like a hera tool or a bone folder or a bamboo stick, bamboo creaser, that makes it easier. These are quite nice though because you can actually push the curved sides out as well with the opposite end. That's a clover hera tool, H-E-R-A. And there we are. You see what I mean about the point in the middle? Because I sewed a couple of stitches across, it's actually gone really pointy. Sometimes that area can pucker when you're doing something like this. Righty-ho, then we're going to put some stuffing inside there. So this is just toy filler. I normally keep a really big bag of toy filler. It just comes in really handy. It's not just for toys. If you're doing trapunto quilting, or you just wanted to add a little bit of padding behind the back of a plique and things like that, a little bit of toy filler comes in quite handy. So if you've got the space for it, buy a big bag of it. And with this one, I'm going to stuff it quite tightly because I want nice fat hearts. So just keep pushing in there as much as you can. And in fact, the tighter you stuff this, the smoother the seam's going to be. So just keep pushing it. It's amazing how much it takes. You see, I've got this big lump of wadding here, and that's going to disappear inside. Down into the point. Tweezers, or again a pointy tool, is handy for getting that stuffing right into the point. Careful you don't go through your fabric there. There you go. Then I'm going to use a ladder stitch to sew this closed. Do you know, I think we could use some more in there. Just a little bit. So take your needle and thread, and we're going to sew. We'll start with the needle just inside the seam. You can see some of my stitches are starting to pull there, so I'm going to start my seam from where the stitches aren't pulling, and then hold the two sides together, and I'm going to go in once at one side of the fold and out again, and take the needle to the opposite side of the fold and go in and out. So directly opposite the stitch that I've just made, I'm going to go into the other side and then back again. And this is why it's called a ladder stitch, because you're making stitches that are going straight across the gap, just like the rungs of a ladder. So you could use an over edge stitch, which is just going over and over and over, which may be a little bit easier. But this is just such a there you go, such a lovely stitch, because when you pull the threads together, they just disappear. It makes a really lovely seam. So let's carry on till we get to the end. And the smaller the stitches you can make, the more likely they are to look like the machine sewn stitches. So not so important on something like this, but if you're doing this in something like garment making, it's quite satisfying to have your hand stitches where you can't differentiate between those and the machine stitches. So there we go. Look, let's just pull that gently and close, and then carry on to the end. It shouldn't really matter the colour of thread that you use either, because these stitches really are invisible when you do them properly. Okay, so I've got to the end of the seam. Just give that a gentle pull to close the seam together, and then I'll just tie off the thread at the end. A really secure knot is to push your needle through, just like you're doing a French knot. Wrap that around 2 or 3 times, and then pull the thread through, and you get a tiny little knot. And that's that one finished. And then you need to do exactly the same with the next size and the next size. So I've got 3 hearts that all look the same. Then we're going to join them together. Now, if you have a doll needle, this is a good time to use it. Doll needles are just really long needles. So I can now take this needle through all 3 of my hearts. If you don't have a doll needle, then the easiest thing to do then would be to sew the top of one heart to the middle section of another and just sew that by hand. Or you can leave a little bit of a gap there, like I'm going to here, but you're literally going to just sew in between those 2 hearts. So I'm going to start with the largest heart at the top, and I'm going to push my needle straight through the V shape at the top of the heart and come out underneath. You'll need quite a long length of cord here. I'm using just a crochet cord, but this could be an embroidery floss maybe. I'm going to leave enough length at the top of the heart so I can hang it. And at the bottom of the heart, I'm just going to make a small knot. And that's going to help to stop the heart slip down the cord. And then straight into the middle one. And out through the point. Leave around about, I don't know, an inch or so here. And again, a knot at the bottom. A nice idea would be to put beads on the cord as you're going. I think that would look really pretty, even if it's just one underneath the point of the heart to kind of secure it there where I'm tying the knots. But I think that would be a lovely look. And then the smallest one again, out through there, and then there you go. And then again tying a final knot. And again at the bottom you could leave a little string hanging down there and tie a whole string of beads or put a tassel on the bottom of it. So you really can go to town with these, but they make them look very pretty with lots and lots of embellishments on them. So this one I'm going to tie in a double knot just to make that nice and secure. And then I can chop that off. So I'll just arrange the hearts so that they're even again. There we go. Then I'll need to make a loop at the top, and there my hearts are finished. They're pretty, aren't they? You could make really long ones, or maybe start with a small, medium, large, medium, small, so have them grading in size. You could even string them side by side, so they don't have to be hanging in a row like this. But I just think in a window they'd look so pretty, or hanging at the side of the fireplace. And you can even put things inside here, like maybe a little bit of rose oil to scent them, or even lavender or something like that. So there's my string of hearts finished. And I hope you enjoy making yours.